Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan tearing apart a little bit of Jamie's fact checking here. You knew it was going to happen. You know, Jamie's been big on the fact checking since, for a while. I would say since Kamala's been running. I think before that as well. Yeah. I would say about for 3 years now. He's been a little bigger into that. And he tries to fact check Joe. Joe brings up $27 million coming from Soros Foundation to something called the Tide Center, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about after Joe's done speaking. And he tries to come up and show him a tweet that shows Joe that he's wrong. And Joe just kind of just goes down that whole tweet, reads it real deep, and just kind of rips it apart limb from limb. But that is what needs to happen when it comes to this type of fact checking. And this is not a slight on Jamie. He is a long-standing institution. The Young Jamie Institution is a long-standing, needed part of the JRE. But let's play this clip and we'll talk after.
That's the other thing we found out through all this Doge stuff. How much of this stuff that you see that you think is organic, these riots and protests, how much of that is funded? How much are we paying for the decisions that are costing us that? Like how much? We're spending money to like $27 million went to the George Soros DA fund. That's so crazy. That's more than he puts in. we were paying to get DAs elected. It's nuts. And anybody who doesn't think it's nuts, it's like, listen, you're not paying attention. You're captured. You must be captured by, and this is not saying that USAid doesn't do good things. I'm sure they do. But the amount of things that they do that are ridiculous this should concern you. And if it doesn't concern you, we're talking nonsense. We're not having a real conversation.
That's what I don't get about the Blues and the Reds.
Yeah.
There's got to be some people on the Blue side that go, it's a good idea that we're doing this.
Yeah.
What he's doing is a good idea because we're squandering a lot of money.
There's a lot of people like that, but they're quiet because the Blues will come for you.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but after the election, at least in my opinion for myself, I had the right to make an opinion again. I could have an opinion.
Yes.
I can have an opinion.
Finally,
I can have an opinion after 4 years.
Isn't that weird? It did really feel like that. Like the consciousness of the country was like a rat. Like we're going to rat on you. And you couldn't just have fun and talk about things. You couldn't have an opinion that wasn't like right out of mainstream news. You had a 100% toe the line or you were attacked.
I put in one post, I have an opinion. I'm going to use it again. I think we should sink every commercial whaling ship in the ocean. Send them to Davy Jones' locker.
You get a lot of support behind that. You get a lot of support from the environmental people, too.
There's a pushback on that 27 million George Soros stuff.
Oh, really? What's the pushback?
That it's not true.
What do they say?
There's a long tweet if you want me to bring it up.
Sure, bring it up.
I thought it was 58 million.
It's only on the side of the page here, though.
Okay, the claim that Mike Benz establishes in his research is that USAID paid out $27 million in grants to the Tide Foundation. The Tides Foundation is a major funder of the Soros-backed group. Fair and just prosecution. Benz frames this as though it's evidence of USAID funding fair and just prosecution. Well, it seems like it is. This framing only works. You have no idea what the Tides Foundation is or how large foundations like it operate. Tides is an intermediary funder, meaning that it facilitates grants from originating grantors, the money people, to receive grantees, the people getting the money. If you're a big organization like USAID, you don't give money to Tides to do with it what they will. You forward money through Tides to a specific recipient of your choosing. Why do you send your money through middlemen instead of giving it directly? For the same reason people always use middlemen to facilitate contracts, because middlemen know how to deal with paperwork, to supervise contracts, and so on. Did USA give money to FJP? You can figure that out quickly for yourself. Go to usaspending.gov, set keyword Tides, and awarding agency to USAID. Click Submit. Go to tab Grants tab. You will see 4 grants. Open each one. The lion's share of USAID's money came to a single grant of $24.6 million. If you click through, you see it is described as a Civil Society Innovation Initiative fiscal agent. Read that. That sounds Orwellian. Civil Society Innovation Initiative fiscal agent. The fiscal agent description means that the Tide Center acted as a middleman for the government's money. The Civil Society Innovation Initiative was the end recipient. Already, the FJP USAID link has been broken. But what else can we say about this grant? Well, that doesn't seem like it's been broken. That seems like you've given this money to an agency or to this group. You haven't disproven that this group is attached to Soros. It says, first off, CS2 was awarded the grant in 2016, FJP. The Soros org was founded a year later in 2017. Still doesn't mean they don't work together now. And it doesn't mean that he wasn't a part of the people that were doing. I mean, I'm not saying he is, and I'm not saying he was, but I'm saying this is not disproving anything. As far as I can tell by Googling, there has never been any organizational affiliation between the two organizations. Okay, by Googling? That's it. You just Googled. I want you to Google vaccine injuries and tell me if there's any. Good luck. Good luck. COVID-19 injuries. Tell me you can decide everything that you need to know about COVID injuries by a Google search. You're not going to, right? Okay, so by Googling, there's never been any organizational affiliation between the two organizations. CS2's work appears to be funding civil society organizations, CSOs abroad. What does that mean? As far as I can tell, that's a little vague. It mainly means they give money out to nonprofits in foreign countries to do things like monitor and fight disease spread, monitor human rights abuses. This sounds a little like whitewashing, promoting digital security, and so on. They do only good things, John. They definitely don't get involved in shady characters that are trying to rewrite the way our legal system deals with violent criminals. Nah.
I've never understood Soros.
I don't get it either. Elon Musk hates him. I have a limited amount of knowledge, but I do know that he spends a lot of money on these like super progressive liberal DAs. I don't know whether or not Mike Benz, who's going to be here soon, can really trace that 27 million. I'll ask him. But at the end of the line, it's like, this is all vague. Like, what is that? What's that 24 million going to? Like, what it might be going to fight diseases. It might be sure. Or you don't know. How about you don't know? And all you did was Google whether or not those people know each other. That's crazy. Doesn't mean they do. It doesn't mean it's corrupt. It doesn't mean it goes to Soros funds, but you didn't disprove it.
Well, that's anymore. You can't hardly tell what's true. I mean, the rumors that are floating around are, is it AI? Is it true? Is it, what am I looking at?
Yeah, a lot of AI stuff.
And the rumors we were talking about rumors on the drive, and I'm going, sometimes you just can't do anything about them. You just got to let them run. And then if you can improve them, if you're involved in it, improve it somehow to make it a better rumor. One of the most recent rumors, and I was talking to Drew this morning, the rumor that Elon Musk was going to put 4 commercials on the Super Bowl about Doge and all the fine things they're doing.
Yeah.
He didn't do that.
I wonder if that's even legal.
That was fake news.
Right, but that seems like if you can make a stylish video about, I wonder if that's legal, right? Like, I don't know what the rules are. I don't even know if it should be legal. Like, what are the rules in terms of if you're involved in some sort of a government agency or a government discovery agency, which is like what Doge is, right? If you're involved in that, like, would you be able to propagandize to the people, even in a positive way, even if it's true? Like, make a video showing how amazing a job you're doing and do it in a cinematic way that makes it compelling? That seems like a lot of influence, right?
Yeah, supposedly he was going to spend $40 million on it or something like that.
Yeah, but that's just the internet.
I know, it's crazy.
I didn't even ask him, and then I went online looking for them.
Yeah, well, I was thinking at least there's going to be one a quarter. Didn't see one in the first quarter, and the second quarter, the half. And by then, the game was kind of over.
Well, that's like when everybody thought that JFK Jr. was going to come back to life and show up in Dallas. And
yeah.
Man, I had a friend that really believed that, and his daughter was so mad. He would say that to me, and his daughter would look at me and be like, "Oh my God." I'd be like, "Hey, you never know. I don't know. Good." The way he disappeared was kind of weird. Maybe the way he comes back will be kind of weird too. Those were fun times. Actually, no, they weren't. They actually weren't. No, those are crazy times actually. But getting into this whole thing. First off, he's 100% right. That was fake news. I heard that as well. I heard he was spending $40 million. There was going to be some Super Bowl ads. Instead, we got Kanye West doing an iPhone video type of commercial, and then it goes to his website, and there's only one shirt to buy, and I'm like, I'm not buying that shirt, buddy. That's all there was. It was crazy. But yeah, he's 100% right. But what they're talking about, what Joe Rogan was talking about and dissecting there, that Jamie showed him was not fake news. Mike Benz was quite on point with that. Now, I've had to study this quite a bit. The reason that I had to was because of Joe Rogan, of course, the channel. And he was talking about George Soros and what he funds, what he actually puts money into. So I had to do like a little bit of a deep dive because I like to do that for you guys. And what I found was that he does give to the Tides Center. The Tides has like 5 different names. So it's like the Tide Center, there's a Tide Foundation, there's 2 River Tides as well. They have a bunch of different names because I guess they all do, slightly different things or handle different funds to go to different places, grants, donations, etc. So it has a bunch of names. Soros does give that to them. They have been seen giving to pro-Hamas type things, but they've also been seen giving to Israel. They've also been seen giving to BLM. They've also been seen to giving to pretty much LGB community. They've been seen giving to a whole bunch of different places, which kind of makes sense. Now, George Soros is not just a large funder of theirs. He's actually the largest. Just so you know, he's the biggest funder. From 2018 to 2000, or sorry, from 1998 to 2018, they received $22 million from George Soros's Open Society Foundation, making Soros the largest listed notable grantors to Tides. And this is just straight up here, George Soros funds the Tide Network, that's another name that they have, has received federal grants and contracts totaling at least $16 million since 2005, most of which came in 2016 and 2017 via USAID. So I'm not making this up. And the Department of Health and Human Services. Why? Doesn't even make sense. I mean, I guess you could kind of make it make sense, but it really doesn't. Guys, sorry to interrupt the video. You know I don't like to do that, but I just had to let you know that there is another channel that I have. Okay, we have 255 videos, and this is where we break away from the Joe Rogan content. We are covering breaking news. We are covering just things that are going on, culture war stuff, woke nonsense, all sorts of stuff like that. So for those of you who have been asking, hey, what's with the big focus on Joe Rogan? Here it is. This is where we break away from the Joe Rogan content. Coach Colin Media, link in the description. Let's get back to the video. Now, they were talking about being middlemen. Tide Center actually is a middleman. But here's the thing. It gives to causes that you don't want to be seen giving to. So if, like Soros, I mentioned, if you're giving to both sides of a conflict, you don't want to see that. You don't want that to be seen. So what do? You give to Tides, right? And that's just seen on your side of the paperwork as a donation to them. You're giving to them. It doesn't say where that's going, but you and Tides have sorted that out. So it ends up going where it has to go, but you're not seen as doing it, right? Tides is seen as doing it, and Tides is kind of like it's a middleman. It's faceless, really. So that's actually what's been going on. So they've given to BLM, they've given to everything that you've seen pop up on the news, we'll just say, to be most charitable, in the past 5-6 years. They are large donators to protests, etc., etc. And you know where all that etc. goes, right? So they actually do allow foundations like Open Society to fund various things without really getting their hands dirty. Now, that person who Joe tore apart in that fact check there, he's right. They are middlemen. They are better at handling the paperwork and everything, but they're the ones who can put their names on it. And that's a big thing. So, Mike Benz, Joe, they're not wrong. This actually does happen. It has happened. They've gotten money from USAID. Here I have a picture of. They also, it's 24 million there. Card full. 24 million there. Let me make myself extra small there. You can see just right above my small square there, 24.6 million. And if I go back here just to show you, that is USAID to the Tide Center. So Soros and the Tide Center both give to this organization. So Joe was not wrong at all. And the people who are saying that's not true, if they're taking everything at face value, and here's the thing, that person in that fact check, they were like, oh, well, as far as I can see, if you go to Tide's website, you can find explicitly, they don't hide it. They're not like some shadow entity. They're very faceless and nobody really knows about them, but they don't hide it. They'll show you. They'll say, yeah, Open Society Foundation gave us money. And they'll show you who they give money to. So they're very open. So that person saying after a little Google, that must have been one Google staying on the first page and that's it. Because you can see that they're actually connected. So that person was being kind of disingenuous, but if I had to be as charitable as I could possibly be, they just didn't dig in and do the research because they wanted things to look a certain way. They wanted Mike Benz to be wrong. They wanted it to not look the way it is. And who knows what motive they have for that. I don't know. I couldn't see the Twitter account that they were pulling up there. I couldn't actually see the ad or anything, so I can't go to that person to see who they are. But yeah, no, that was 100% wrong. And again, it's not Jamie's fault. Not Jamie's fault at all. Jamie wanted to fact check, and Joe usually Joe will be like, oh, it's not true. See, the internet got me again. You've seen Joe do that many times. This time he was not doing that. He's like, let's read this. He read quite a bit of that whole thing, and he dissected it step by step as he should. And he's 100% right. So Soros does give to that center, and that center does give to a lot of questionable places. We'll just say that. One other instance where I had to research this whole thing is when I had my back and forth with Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore actually called me out because I said that a lot of these protests, like Joe, like Patrick Bet-David, like Tim, like so many people who do what we do, they all have said this. I did the research. Jimmy didn't like that I said that. So he actually put me on his show. He showed my tweet. He was cutting me up. Kurt Mensker was like, he was doing what he does on whatever he's on. And I was like, whoa. So I made a response video, and I actually had to do a little bit of research. So I did find that Open Society Foundation actually does give the Tides. Tides actually gives to something called Students for Justice in Palestine. They have control over 268 different campuses across the United States of America and Canada. So when you see protests spark up, and they spark up everywhere out of nowhere, that's actually by design. So I figured that out. Then they also adjacently give to something called Palestine Legal. Palestine Legal actually waits for those protests to spark. And when they do, and when people get arrested, Palestine Legal actually represents whoever is in the protest, whoever is arrested. So whether it's an Antifa member, whether it's just, a kid who just had a good heart and just wanted to be in the cause, because that does exist, whether it's an organizer, whether it's a socialist, whether it's whoever it is, they represent them and get them out of that situation as quick as possible and back into the protest. So that was just a little chain that I discovered, but it goes deeper. I mean, it goes every which way. You can find Open Society giving to BLM, doing the same thing. Palestine Legal will represent someone, a BLM situation. They'll represent somebody within that as well. So you can really see it if you do some digging. There's something called, what's the website called? This is called USA Spending. I believe usaspending.gov. You can see it through there. There's also a website that I use for research, ngomonitor.org. Let me get this on there we go. So this is a website here. You can see that. This is actually good for research as well if you're looking to see funders, who they give to. So you can even go here. There's a search bar up top that you guys might not be able to see, but you hit that search bar, you go Tides. Then tides will pop up. Everything that has to do with tides will pop up. And this is just like how you take a little, gander at what they do and what they're involved in, right? So you'll just see a bunch of different stuff. There's a Palestine legal there, right? So you could just do this with anything, really. Rockefeller Foundation, blah, blah, blah. Here, you can even go here, BLM. Right? It's just, you can just track and you can see articles, and because they're not hiding it, because they don't have anything to hide. It's not a secret thing. It's just something that we, the people, don't look into all that often. So you can find all sorts of stuff. They'll show you all sorts of articles because to them, this is press. They want you to know that they're doing this. Again, nothing to hide here, right? So you can see all sorts of stuff. So like somehow, children in the Middle East somehow is affiliated with Black Lives Matter, Stop the Wall, Palestine grassroots, anti-apartheid, wall campaign, they are associated somehow with Black Lives Matter. You go into this article, you'll see the whole thing. So there's that website. There's this one over here, U.S. spending. They actually have an X page as well. This is another one where you can just go and see stuff. You can just check things out. Check awards, explore the data. You can even download the data. It just said agencies. You can check out different things. Profile down here. Find an agency. What agency? Since we're on tides, let's just see if we can find tides. There's no results found for tides. Government spending, USAID. You can find that, right? You can go in there. You can see budgetary resources. They have close to $1 billion right now, right? You can go there. You can see an overview. It's gathering data, right? It's just, this is 2025. You can see the funding. 2025 is very early. You see 2021. 2022 gets a little higher. 23 gets higher. 24 gets a little lower. 25, it has certainly slowed down quite a bit. And that's because you're early in the year. And of course, everything that Trump and Doge have done. And then you can see a bunch of stuff. So like a lot of times when you hear people talking about this stuff, award obligations, 8.7 billion, number of transactions, 3,800. So you can see the whole thing. So I just tell you that to just, look how small I am down here. I know some of you like that. Some of you are like, you're too big. Why are you taking up the screen? So yeah, those two things, you can use those to research pretty well anything, and you can see where everything's going. But I just wanted to put that out there. Joe Rogan shredding Jamie's fact check. I think he needs to do that more often. I'm not 100% sure. I'm definitely not on the bandwagon that Jamie is some kind of operative, but I think he is left-leaning. There's some people who's like that's been on Joe Rogan. Duncan is somebody that's like that. Duncan seems like he's in the center when he has conversations, but you can tell he's very, very left-leaning. You can tell he's very, very left-leaning, but he's also open-minded in conversation, so it's hard to tell, There's some people like that where they say that they're in the center, but they're actually very left-leaning. I think Jamie's just that. He's just a left-leaning guy, and that's not the worst thing in the world. You've been working with Joe Rogan. You're a left-leaning guy. Joe's a left-leaning guy. And then all of a sudden, 2023, 2024, 2025, it's like, what happened? The guy's switched up, So I can't fault Jamie for that at all. But I always keep the tinfoil Speedo on. And I know that he could easily be a plant. I mean, I've talked about this before. Let's go a little tinfoil here. Joe Rogan just has a podcast. It's doing okay. Brian Redban is the producer. Now, if you guys remember back in the day when it came to Redban, what did Joe and Redban always used to do? You remember. They used to argue. Joe used to get mad. He used to say, why are you always bringing up the Olive Garden? Why are you always interrupting? And then when Joe really got into the interviews and Brian kept doing it, Joe was getting madder and madder. And there was actually a clip where Joe Rogan's making fun of Brian Redban because Brian Redban's talking about his stand-up just out of nowhere. He just interjects it into the conversation. And Joe's like, oh, I was awesome. He's making fun of Brian because Brian said he was really awesome at this stand-up show. And he's like, Brian, this is gross. Stop making this about you. Weeks later, Jamie goes from Ohio to LA to watch Joe Rogan do stand-up. Now, I'm not going to downplay Joe Rogan's stand-up, but that's a long way to go just to see Joe do stand-up at a comedy club. Not a stadium, not a theater, at a comedy club, at a bar. You know what I mean? Then Jamie approaches Joe. He says, hey, I can help you with your audio. But if you're a fan of the JRE, you already know that Brian's handling the audio. And there was nothing wrong with the audio at the time. So then Joe says, okay. And it becomes like an intern position where Jamie just starts watching. And he's pretty much watching what Brian's doing the whole time. Slowly starts to learn what he's doing. Then takes the guy's job. There's one episode where it's Brian Redman, Jamie, and Joe. And it's almost like he's interviewing Jamie a little bit, but Jamie's like playing it cool in the back. But from there, Brian's gone. Jamie gets in there. The podcast, I'm not doing an Elon salute there. That wasn't an Elon salute. Don't cancel me. Out of nowhere, after that happens, the podcast skyrockets. So, if we are going to wear tinfoil Speedos, okay, and we are going to dance in the realm of lizard people and hollow earth, well, then I have to acknowledge that that's weird. Then he lives in Ohio. He takes a one-way ticket to LA and just stays there. Joe Rogan's podcast isn't the Joe Rogan podcast we know today. That's a crazy thing to do. Unless you're a CIA agent, then it's just part of the job. I'm just saying. I think about things too. I invented the tinfoil Speedo. Okay. Okay. So of course I think about these things like crazy. And sometimes I look at people and I go, do they have lizard eyes? It gets that deep. It gets that deep, guys. You want me to tell you, this is completely off topic. My wife is really smart, okay? She's super smart, and she went to a gifted school. There's actually a program called GATE. Look it up. It's like a conspiracy. It's a GATE program where they take gifted people and they recruit them into agencies, okay? My wife is in a gifted program. Nothing comes of it. Okay. Then she marries me. She's much smarter than me and could do way better, let's be honest. But she sticks with me. What's going on there? Is she monitoring me right now? Is that what this is? I'm telling you, I wear a tinfoil Speedo. I think these things sometimes, but I'm just kidding, of course. I say that to her and she laughs. She laughs and then she pulls out this thing and she's like, blink. And then I don't remember anything after. I don't know what it is. I'll only question that theory more if I become massively successful. Right now, this would seem weird to be doing that. But if I become massively successful, I'm going to consider it. Anyways, guys, completely off topic. That's why I want to go live, because I just want to talk to you guys and then just go off on tangents and then pull up more clips. Like right now, I want to pull up more clips. I have a bunch of clips. And I don't want to do them by myself. I want to have you guys there. I want to talk to you guys. Anyway, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.